안녕하세요. 오랜만에 로켓발사 생중계를 하죠. 오늘은 여기 잘 아신 대로 스페이스X의 스타링크 그룹 4-8을 46개 위성을 발사합니다. 예전에 그 2월 3일 날에 그 4-7을 46개 발사했다가 47개 발사했다가 태양 그 폭발 플레이어를 만나가지고 40개 위성이 우수수 떨어진 일이 있었는데 다시 이제 그거를 이제 딛고 다시 발사를 한다고 합니다. 그래서 어차피 스타링크 발사는 여러분이 잘 아신 것처럼 굉장히 깔끔하게 끝나는 발사이기 때문에 대략 45분에 발사가 되면요, 대략 그 생중계는 한 12시 전후로 해가지고 끝날 거예요. 네, 빨리 끝날 겁니다. 그래서 저도 굉장히 편한 마음으로 이제 볼 수 있겠는데요. 자, 이제 시작하죠. 17번째 오늘 발사가 되겠습니다.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Ten, nine, eight,
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. It's Monday,
낙서
February
오늘
21st,
좋네요.
and you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as
플로리다에
it
있는
awaits
케이프
its
캐나버럴의
9:24 a.m. Eastern Time
스페이스
launch
런치
from
센터,
Space
지금
Launch
발사대
Conference
40번
40
발사에 대해서
at
발사를
Space
한다고
Force
하네요.
Station. My name is Jessie Anderson. I'm joining you today right next to SpaceX Mission Control from our headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I'm excited to be here to guide you
아마
through our
저번에
38th
그
overall Starlink
40개
launch this
위성
morning.
날려가지고 좀
As a
손길이
quick
한
reminder,
몇백억,
Starlink
500억
is a
원이니까
satellite internet
됐을 거예요.
constellation designed and manufactured by SpaceX. Starlink
어쨌든 오늘
can
발사를
provide
세웁니다.
high-speed, low-latency internet to people living in remote and rural locations around the globe. Our launch today will be taking 46 Starlink satellites into low
오랜만이네.
Earth orbit,
저도
or
오랜만에,
also
진짜
referred
오랜만이네요.
to as LEO. Similar to our previous Starlink launches this year, we will be launching to a southbound trajectory to
그래서
take
오늘
advantage
제가
of
그
better recovery
발사
weather
기호를
for our first stage during
간단하게
the
얘기
winter months when
드리면요.
the seas in the north can be a bit rough.
오늘이 그 올해 그 17번째 발사입니다. 그리고 팔컨 9의 141번째 발사가 되겠고요. 그리고 부스터가 85번째 그 1단 부스터 85번째 그 착륙을 하겠고, 올해는 이제 6번째 부스터 착륙이 되겠죠. 그리고 발사대 40번에서 발사하는 80번째 발사 되겠습니다. 날씨 굉장히 좋네요. 오늘 발사 잘 될 것 같습니다. 그리고 오늘 그 착륙하는 그 바지선은 셔틀 오브 그래비티스의 발사를 그 착륙을 하는데, 지금 발사 지점에서 636km 그 떨어져 있습니다. 오늘 그 부스터는 B1058-11이에요.
Our two-stage rocket stands 70 meters tall, which makes it almost as tall as the Statue of Liberty, about 3/4 of the 93-meter monument in New York City, and about 20 meters taller than the Arc de Triomphe in
그
Paris,
이제 뭐
France,
엔진 7
which is
이제
about 50 meters
들어가고요.
tall. Starting from the
1,500
bottom, we
밑에
have the
들어가는
first stage, also referred to
들어가기
as the
직전이네요.
booster, which makes up over about 60% of the entire length of the Falcon 9
뭐
vehicle.
어차피 뭐 이게
The dark soot
그렇게
that you
뭐
see around the lower part of the first stage
수식을
are
붙일
remnants
필요도
from
없죠,
its
이제요.
previous launches. This particular booster has supported 10 previous missions, 5
제가
previous
그
Starlink
일요일
missions,
날에 16번째 발사를 하려고 했는데
CRS-21,
오전
Transporter 2,
6시,
Transporter
오전
3,
2시 반이라
and
40분이어서
NASA's Demo 2 mission.
보겠습니다. 그래서 네,
As the name Falcon 9
이
suggests,
발사로
attached to the
하시고,
bottom of the first stage are 9 Merlin or M1D engines.
네, 먼저
The 9
진짜
Merlin 1D engines accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere and into various orbits in space. While we've taken payloads to
진짜
different
좋다.
orbits around our planet, today's
저기서 좀-
payload is going into low Earth orbit, or LEO. Although there is no universal standard, LEO typically refers to orbits that are less than 2,000 to 2,400 kilometers in altitude. Depending on the
그리고
velocity
이제
at a
다음
2,000
발사가
kilometer circular orbit, an object in
네,
Leo can make
4일
a little
후에
over
26일
11
날에
orbits a day, almost a sunrise
그룹
and a sunset every
4-9,
hour.
4-10은 이제
Now, in
건너뛰고 일단
addition to our
4-11을
Starlink
먼저 발사를 한다고
constellation, the
하네요.
International Space Station and Hubble Space
이것도
Telescope
오전
are both currently traveling in low Earth orbit.
다행인가요?
Now, moving up on the vehicle, we have the
토요일
interstage. As you
오전
can see on your screen, the black
0시
carbon
오전
fiber
0시
interstage
40분
is a
나름
distinct
괜찮네요.
black color because it is
그리고 그날에
unpainted
그
TPS, or
중국에서도 오전
thermal
8시에
protection
발사가
system.
있습니다.
The interstage is mated to the Falcon 9 tanks
중국
in
발사가 좀 눈에
Hawthorne, typically
보이고
stays mated until launch.
28일에는
Now,
그
although this composite
일렉트론의
structure is officially
로켓
part of
랩의
the first stage,
일렉트론
it connects to
올빼미는
the first and
올빼미
second
감이 계속
stages,
쓴다.
as
저
well as
울브스
houses pneumatic
나이트
pushers that allow
나이트
stage
컨티뉴스
separation during
해가지고
flight.
이제 발사를 또
The interstage also
블랙스카이
houses
위성을
the
발사할
Merlin
거예요.
vacuum engine or MVAC engine, and though very similar to the Merlin 1D engines on the first stage, the
일단은 뭐
MVAC
지켜보겠습니다.
engine has
특별히
a
제가 설명할 거
larger
없습니다
nozzle
이제.
that allows the second stage to perform better in the vacuum of space. It gives us a more efficient rocket engine that gets us better performance. Now, as you can see on your screen, the white portion of Falcon 9 above the black inner stage is the second stage. After the first and second stages separate about 2.5 minutes into flight, the second stage will
이번에는
ignite
좀
its MVAC
순항하기
engine to
바랍니다.
carry the payload
저번에
to its
위성
desired
날려고
orbit.
그래가지고 40개 날려가지고
Following separation from the second stage,
날씨가
we will
90%예요.
be attempting to
지금
recover the first stage for
지금
an
보이는
11th
게
time on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas, which you can see a live
지금 보이고
view from
있죠.
right there with the blue skies in the background. If successful, it will mark the 100th recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage and our 107th if you include Falcon Heavy. Above the second stage is the payload fairing.
네,
That's
10분
what you're seeing on
남았죠?
your screen. That nose
아우.
cone structure at the very
뭐
top
설마
of the
쓰다니고
rocket
뭐
protects
스타링크인데요,
the
뭐.
Starlink
아,
satellites
걸렸습니다.
until we reach space. Around 3 minutes into flight, once we've exited Earth's atmosphere, we will jettison the fairing halves and attempt to retrieve them once they return back to Earth.
제가
Now, we
그동안
want
그
to
정리를
jettison
하나도 안
the fairing
했거든요.
halves as
엄청
soon as we
공난 많이
can,
남아있어요.
as the weight of the fairing decreases second stage performance. The fairing halves protecting our Starlink satellites today are flying for the third time. Just as we reuse Falcon 9 first stage, we recover and reuse our fairing halves, and we will be attempting to recover these halves again using our recovery vessel Doug today. Now you may be able to hear some of the live rocket sounds from the launch pad. The pops and hissing sounds that you hear are from the propellant loading that started at the T-minus 35-minute mark. Now our Falcon 9 vehicle uses two propellants, a refined form of kerosene called RP1 or rocket propellant 1 as the fuel, and LOX or liquid
아주.
oxygen as an oxidizer. An oxidizer is a substance that a fuel requires in order to burn. The liquid oxygen is chilled well below its boiling point so that it has a much greater amount of mass per volume, basically so that we can load more of it into the rocket. In addition to these two propellants, we also use the chemical TTEB, or triethyl aluminum, and triethyl borane as the ignition source. Now, the combustion of RP1 and LOX make the rocket go or fly, but it's the TTEB that sets the match to the propellant mix. Now, it's just like a barbecue with charcoal and the oxygen air around it. Until you light a match to it, you won't have the flame to cook your food, or for our purposes, there's no liftoff. Now we fill the liquid oxygen into the first and second stages to full as close to T0 as possible to minimize how long the liquid oxygen could start to warm up. Now this is similar to fueling your combustion car.
제가 그
You put the
헤드폰을
handle in,
블루투스로
turn it
해가지고
on,
워낙에
and when it's full, the
큰거
pump shuts off.
같아가지고 지금 선으로 다시 바꿨는데 괜찮네요. 이거
The latest
일단은요.
weather forecast from Space Launch Delta 45 shows that we are 90% favorable for liftoff today.
네, 아주
And as
날씨
you can see on
좋아요.
your screen,
90%입니다.
we've got some great blue skies over there in Florida.
너무 좋다 날씨가.
The vehicle, satellites, and range are all looking good for an on-time liftoff just a few minutes from now at 9:44 a.m. Eastern Time.
어차피 뭐 이거는
If
발사를
you've
그렇게
been
부담스러운
following us, you may know that we've had an exciting few weeks here at SpaceX. Just last week, Elon gave an update at our Starbase location on the latest progress with Starship. Starship is a fully reusable
와, 진짜
transportation
장관인데요?
system designed to
아,
carry
저거
both
스타쉽이다.
crew
와, 진짜
and
멋있다.
cargo to Earth orbit, the Moon, Mars, and beyond. It will be the world's most powerful launch vehicle ever developed, with the ability to carry in excess of 100 metric tons to Earth orbit. In advance of the update,
이걸
the team
보여주냐?
stacked the Starship spacecraft
하도 보여줄 게
on the
없어가지고
super
이제
heavy rocket
그
for the
스타쉽을
first time
보여주니까
using
전혀
Mechazilla
상관이
and the
없는데.
chopsticks. Now, Mechazilla is the structure that you see there, and the chopsticks being the structure holding the Starship vehicle on your screen. If you weren't able to catch the Starship update for the first time around, never fear. The full presentation is now available for viewing on our YouTube channel.
스타쉽이
On
나와.
top of
너무
that,
웃기다 이게
Jared
진짜 이거.
Isaacman, who you may remember was the commander of the Inspiration 4 mission,
Um,
announced the Polaris program. This program will consist of up to 3 human spaceflight missions that will demonstrate new technologies, conduct extensive research, and ultimately culminate in the
너무 웃기네,
first
진짜
flight of
이거는.
SpaceX's Starship
물론
with
이제
humans on board. The first
스타링크
mission,
자체로는
Polaris
이야기할
Dawn,
필요
is
없다는
targeted
얘기죠.
to launch no earlier than the
너무
fourth
웃기다.
quarter of 2022.
아, 그리고 저거 있잖아요.
Historic launch
지금 제가 보고
complex
지금 보이는
39A
것은
at NASA's
폴라리스
Kennedy Space
프로그램
Center in Florida.
해가지고 아마 올해
This
말에
mission will
할
also
거예요.
attempt the world's
네,
first
아우.
civilian spacewalk.
완전히 뭐 오늘 그 스페이스X 그냥
The
광고판이네
Polaris
광고판.
Dawn crew will consist of Jared Isaacman, Scott Kidd Poteet, who was a veteran member
아,
of
너무
Jared's
웃기다
team,
오늘.
and 2 SpaceX employees, Sarah Gillis and Anna Menon. This will be a truly
너무 웃기다,
incredible
진짜.
series of missions, and we could not be more excited for our fellow SpaceXers
그동안 할 말이
going
많았나 봐.
to space.
어.
To learn more about the
하고 있는 거
Polaris
다 보이는데.
program and the Polaris Dawn mission, head over to
너무
their
웃기다, 이거.
website at polarisprogram.com.
이 스타링크 자체로만은 뭐 그렇게 이야기할 게 없으니까 저도 이야기 제가 뭐 할 얘기 없잖아요. 여러분 다 아시니까 이거 지금 그냥 우리가 했던 거 자 이제 엔진 칠해가지고 자 이제 분리가 됐죠 이제. 네 오늘 뭐 특별히 문제가 없는 한 잘 올라갈 것 같습니다. 웃기네요.
And there's that call out that the strong back or the trusted the TE is retracting away from the vehicle. Then at T0, it will clear the way even more as the vehicle lifts off. Now TE is a
전에
structure
이제
that
뭐
provides
별일 없고요.
liquids, gases,
네
and
지금 굉장히
electrical
양호합니다.
connections to the second stage, as well as air
네,
conditioning
지금
to the payload
저희
pairing.
그 중계하면서
And
스타쉽
at
보여주고
this point, the
다른 거
first
보여준
and
거
second stages
솔직히
are
처음이다
nearly
생각이
fully loaded
들어요.
with 1 million pounds of
제
liquid
경험에서는요.
oxygen. And you can
너무
see
재밌네요.
some white clouds on your screen. That is the chilled gas inside of the vehicle above the LOX tank liquid
어차피 오늘
surface
발사 금방
that we
끝납니다.
vent overboard to maintain pressure in the tank as needed. Now, when that gas exits the vehicle into the warmer Florida air, the humid air condenses into clouds. Similar,
Stage 1 lock flow complete.
pretty similar to when you have a cold glass of water and condensation forms around it. And we also just heard the call out for the first stage LOX loading complete. Next up will be second stage.
네,
at
2분
about
남았고요.
2
아,
minutes.
3분 2분 정도 남았죠.
At T-minus a minute and a half,
여기
we then
그
vent
스페이스X는
the
뭐
pressure
발사에
out of
실패했다
the
그
LOX
정도의 이제
line on
뉴스가
the
나오는
transporter
거지.
reactor. So again, that
아,
excess
재밌네요.
chilled gas gets ejected out into the Florida air. So you will see more of those white clouds forming around that time. We aim to finish prop loading on the first
Stage 2
stage.
lock throttle back.
We aim to finish prop loading on the first stage by T-minus 3 minutes and second stage at T-minus 2 minutes to minimize
네,
how
지금
long
문제
the
없이
liquid
지금
oxygen
카운트다운도
could
돌아가고
start to
있습니다.
warm up. Then at a minute before liftoff, you'll hear that Falcon 9 is in startup. That means that the
스타트
rocket's
들어가-
autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch
예, 지금
countdown.
들어가기
Just inside
직전인데요.
T-minus 2 seconds, the Merlin 1D engines will light up, and then we're set for T0.
문제가 없이 다 들어가고 있고요.
Just waiting for that call out for LOX load on second
지금
stage.
1단 로켓이 11번째 비행이에요. 네, 아직 기동 많이 세우고 있죠. 11번째 계획, 부스터 11번째 계획입니다.
There it is. Now both first and second stage are fully loaded.
아, 이번에는요,
with
저번에
propellant.
그 사식기 있고
Starlink payload
날렸잖아요.
continues to be
그래서
healthy.
이번엔
The
저고도에서
Falcon
이제
9 team is
손치되는 걸
tracking no
방지하기
issues on
위해서
vehicle.
320km
Weather is still
고도까지
looking amazing, and you can see the
올라간다.
blue skies there on
뭐
your
그게 나오긴
screen.
하고요.
And the range is green for launch.
자, 올라갑니다. 자, 스타트업 들어가죠.
Now, as I mentioned, you can see the white clouds coming from the transporter erector. Again, that is the liquid oxygen that we are venting out, clearing those lines on the transporter erector.
아, 재밌네요. 오늘 깨알 같습니다. 1분 남았죠? 예, 스타트업 들어가고 이제 발사가 이제 유지. 예.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And there's that call out that the Falcon 9's computers have taken over the
네,
launch
컴퓨터가
countdown,
스타트로
just waiting for
들어갔죠.
the final go from the launch director.
LD, go for launch.
And all systems are now go for launch. So let's listen
네,
into the
런치
terminal
됩니다.
count and watch as
발사되는군요.
Falcon 9 takes our 46 Starlink satellites to space.
T-minus 30 seconds.
네, 이제 30초 남았고요. 고पर 런치. 뭐 당연히. 네, 특별한 문제가 없습니다.
T-minus 15.
네, 10초 거의 남았습니다. 이제 10초 남았네요. 10초.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
발사됩니다.
4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power.
네, 올라갑니다. 발사. 발사됐어요.
Vehicle switching downrange.
네, 지금 현지 시간으로 12시, 14시 44분입니다. 네, 발사가 됐고요. 네, 별 문제 없이 발사가 되고 있습니다. 그리고 조금 있으면 이제 맥스큐 최대 동업 들어갑니다. 아우, 아주 순조롭게 들어가죠. 이 스타링크의 발사에 정말 좋은
Falcon 9
거.
has
빨리 끝난다,
successfully
진짜.
lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station,
네,
Nominal.
carrying our stack of 46 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit. Now, moments ago, we throttled down the engines, reducing the speed by decreasing the flow of fuel to the engine. That's in preparation for max Q or maximum
스페이스X
aerodynamic
들어갑니다.
Supersonic.
슈퍼소닉.
And we are coming up on max Q in a few seconds here.
자, 맥스큐 들어갔습니다.
Max Q.
네, 엑스큐
And
지금
there's that call out that
집중했죠.
we've passed through
최대 동압
max Q.
상태죠.
Now we do have
가장
four
많은
events
압력을
coming
받는
up
그
in quick
구간이 있죠.
succession. The first will be
네,
main
아주
engine
무난하게
cutoff from MECO,
발사합니다.
stage separation,
아이고.
second engine start 1 or SES 1, and then fairing deploy. So main engine cutoff is where
cutoff
all
되고요.
9 of the M1D engines shut down to slow the vehicle down in preparation for the next event, which is stage separation. And that is where the first stage separates from the second stage. Right after stage separation, the first stage will start making its way back to Earth for landing. And while we are able to land the first stage,
Back chill.
while we are able to land the first stage both on land and at sea on our drone ship, today we will attempt to recover the
오메.
first stage on today's mission on our drone ship,
발사합니다.
a shortfall of gravitas. Now, while this is happening, stage 2 will continue on its journey with the third event, which is SES-1, or second stage
자,
engine
그
start 1.
그
That's
미코
where the
지금
MVAC
메인 엔진
engine
컷오프 지금
lights up and
들어가게
propels
직전이
the
있죠.
second stage along with the Starlink satellites to orbit. In just a few seconds after that, we'll have fairing deploy.
MECO.
미코 분리가
Stage separation.
네,
confirmed.
분리됐습니다. 완벽하게 분리가 됐고요.
MVAC ignition.
네, 페어링 네 분리가 됐고요. 페어링 분리됐고 지금 1단도
And great
네,
views
지금
on your screen. We just saw
지금
MECO
그릴핀이
stage
지금
separation,
펼쳐졌습니다.
SES-1 and fairing deploy.
네,
On your
페어링도
left-hand screen is the
모두
first stage,
정상적으로
right-hand
이제
screen
분리가
is a view of the
됐습니다.
MVAC engine. And those visual confirmations mean that we have successfully deployed our fairing halves. SpaceX has reflown Falcon fairing halves since 2019, and the fairing halves flying on today's mission are flying for the third time. Improvements on the fairing and our overall refurbishment process has decreased the impact of water
지금 정상적으로
landings
지금 모든 게
and
제가
led to an
있는
overall fairing
상황이죠.
recovery rate of 93% over the last 14 missions. Of 109 fairing missions, 73 have been recovered and 32 missions have flown recovered fairing halves. And again, we will be attempting to recover the halves again today using our recovery vessel, Doug.
근데 큰 문제 없이 아주 잘 들어가고 있습니다.
And some great views here as stage 2 heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit. Stage 1 will complete 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first is the entry burn, where 3 of those 9 M1D engines will reignite.
아마도 그 오늘 발사도 네, 적정한 수준에서 이제 그 아마 부스터 착륙만 하면은
Then the
거의 끝날
second
것으로
burn for the
예상이
first
있습니다.
stage is the landing burn. This is a single engine burn, the center E9 engine, and that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship.
네, 드론십에 지금 대기를 하고 있죠.
Stage 2 is still looking good on a nominal trajectory. On your left-hand screen, you can see those grid fins on the first stage, helping to guide the vehicle back to its landing zone. Now, if you're just now joining us, we've had a successful liftoff of Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Slick 40 today.
네, 큰 문제 없이
Right
잘
now, you're
들어가고
looking at a live
있고요.
view of Falcon 9's second stage on the right-hand screen.
지금까지 순조롭게 올라가고 있고
And that was
아마
just a call out for
그
a
부스터
nominal trajectory
그
on
착륙만
second stage.
하면은 아마 오늘 발사도 끝날
Stage
것
1 is
같습니다.
currently making its way back to our drone ship, a
그리고
short
아까
fall
이제
of
뜬금없이
gravitas.
예, 스타쉽하고 이제 폴라리스
And
이제 프로그램
today is the
해가지고
38th launch of
폴라리스
Starlink
프로젝트
satellites
이
overall,
지금
the
홍보를
seventh mission
하더라고요.
of 2022, fourth Starlink mission of 2022, and the 145th
올해
total
17번째
overall
발사
SpaceX
그리고
launch.
스페이스X가 한 7번째 발사가 지금 될 것 같아요.
We're just about a minute away from the entry burn start on the first stage.
예, 아주 완벽하게 이제 분리가 됐고요. 지금 착륙을 하고
The
있죠.
Merlin engines on the first stage
네,
are
할 말이
optimized
없습니다.
for sea level. These achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust during ascent. That's when we lift
요즘
off
페어링도
or
좀 분리가
fly,
그 수거를 계속 하고 있거든요.
towards
우리가 이제 그
space.
뉴스가 이제 안 나오지 분이지 페어링도 분리고
Descent,
계속적으로
that's
지금
when we
수거를
come back down to
해가지고
Earth.
지금
Now, the MVAC engine is optimized for 220,500 pounds of thrust in vacuum, and that's what you're seeing on your right-hand screen.
한번 해봅시더라고요. 너무 할 말이 없어 이제 그 너무 완벽하게 잘 들어가기 때문에 무슨 말을 해야 되지? 그래서 이제 스타쉽도
You
나오고
can see those
여러
grid
가지
fins
이야기가
on
많이
your left-hand
나오더라고요.
screen on the first stage. Falcon 9 is equipped with 4 hypersonic grid fins positioned near the top of the first stage. Stage 1 is using nothing but the grid fins for steering as it makes its way, as it makes its return back to Earth. That is until we light the center E9 engine. Then we can gimbal the engine to help guide the stage as it lands. Again, we're coming up on that entry burn here in a few seconds.
Stage 1 FTS has
네, 이제 거의 지금 엔트리번 됐죠? 지금 점화가 됐습니다. 그래서 지금 바지선에 지금 착륙을 하는데 오늘 바지선은 아까 얘기한 대로 셔틀 오브 더 그 그래비티 발사 그 착륙을 합니다.
Stage 2 continues to follow nominal trajectory.
Great callouts on stage 2.
그리고 26일에
Entry burn.
구급 4-9, 4-10을 건너뛰고 4-11을 이제 발사를 한다. 미리 말씀을 드리네요. 오늘 발사까지 하면은 지금 위성이 몇 개인지 한번 확인해 볼게요. 위성이 꽤
For
많아졌는데
those of you who follow along, you'll know that the soot on the rocket indicates it's been flown before. The rocket grade kerosene RP1 used to fuel a Falcon 9 is carbon-based, so when it burns, it generates that soot. And as you just saw with the entry burn, the Falcon 9 vehicle flies through its plume, and that's how it generates the soot onto the vehicle.
오늘까지 발사를 하게 되면요. 어떻겠지?
We are just about 20 seconds or so away from that landing burn beginning on the first stage. And as we touch down, we will also have SECA 1, or second stage engine cutoff 1, on second stage. So we should hear some callouts for that as we are landing on a shortfall of gravitas today.
Stage 1 landing burn.
참고로 그 스페이스X가 지금 3만 개 이상을 더 발사하겠다 했는데 지금 나사가 좀 이건 좀 아닌 것 같다 지금 그 얘기 나오고 그래서 지금 지금 착륙하고 있죠? 바지선에 착륙할 때는 이게 화질이 정말 안 좋아요.
Stage 1 leg deployed.
어쨌든 간에 뭐 그러다 말거나 네 아주 천천히 착륙하는데 성공했습니다. 성공했어요. 근데 이게 착륙할 때 거기 영상이
Stage 1
끊어지더라고요.
landing confirmed.
SECO 1.
And great news, we heard that Falcon 9 has
네,
landed
착륙했어요.
touchdown on a shortfall of gravitas. We also
네,
heard there it is
착륙했습니다.
on your screen. Incredible view of the vehicle standing tall.
셔틀폴 오브 그래비티스에
And we also had
무사히
Sequel 1
착륙을
as well as
했습니다.
that call out right there.
그래서
Let us know
이
that we
팔컨
had a
9
good orbit.
그리고 B1058이 이제
Great news
11번째
overall.
발사에
We are now
비행에
awaiting the
성공했다.
deployment
이렇게
of
이야기를
our
하시네요.
46 Starlink satellites, which is scheduled to occur about an hour from now. Now, as I mentioned before, we won't have live audio or visual
네,
confirmation of
끝났습니다.
payload
그리고
deployment
이게
due to lack of ground station coverage.
오디오 미션 컨트롤 오디오가 있는데 거기서 계속 할 거예요. 하지만 저도 여기 끝나면은 바로 끝내도록 하겠습니다. 그래서 관련 영상은 뭐 오늘 안에 제가 오후쯤에 제가 정리해가지고 올리도록 할게요. 오늘 하필이면 또 2022년 2월 22일이에요. 이 기사 있잖아, 가정하는.
Of course, thank you to all of you, our viewers, and all of our Starlink customers using our service at this
안
time.
보여주잖아요.
And if you're interested in signing up for Starlink service, head over to starlink.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
네, 감사합니다. 여기까지 저도 하겠습니다. 제가 왜 그러냐면은 제가 만두를 구웠거든요. 저도 기다려. 배고파가지고. 하여튼 지금까지 봐주신 거 감사드리고요. 제가 짧은 영상을 다음 오늘 안에 오후쯤에 올리도록 하겠습니다. 지금까지 봐주신 분들 모두 감사드립니다. 여기서 끝낼게요.